The Panic of 1893. The Panic of 1893 started in June of 1893 and ended in June of 1897. During the Depression, the unemployment rate had reached a high of 10%. The cause of the Depression was a sharp drop in business investment in the railroad and construction industries, most notably the Philadelphia-Reading Railroad, which had gone bankrupt. This caused people to go into a panic and start selling their stock and assets to buy gold, causing a great loss in the gold reserve of the U.S. Treasury.
Jacob S. Coxey was an important figure during the Panic of 1893. He led a movement to persuade the government to pass the Coxey-Good Roads Bill. The bill would print $500 million to fund road construction. This road construction would later provide jobs for the unemployed. Prior to being arrested, Coxey inspired other armies like his own to march to Washington and hoped they would provide jobs in irrigation and road construction. And for his march to the capital, he was arrested for trespassing and sentenced to 20 days in jail. The Pullman workers. The Pullman workers started a strike called the Pullman Strike, which was one of the largest strikes in U.S. history. It was a railroad strike and boycott of the Pullman cars, and it was caused by the wages and jobs being cut and raising the working hours. This led to the creation of the American Railway Union, the ARU, by Eugene V. Debs.
President Grover Cleveland was the president during the Panic of 1893. He won the election in 1892 over Benjamin Harrison. During his presidency, he repealed the Sherman-Silver Act. He also sold bonds to replenish the gold reserve, which was in a sharp decline because of the Panic of 1893. Following his departure, he split the Democratic Party. He was also seen as a scapegoat for all the economic troubles of America at the time.
The 24th president wasn't that different from the 22nd president. They were both lawyers from New York, they were both Democrats, and they were both Grover Cleveland. Cleveland was first elected in 1884, and he barely lost his re-election bid in 1888. Things weren't going so hot for Republicans when 1892 rolled around. The economy was bumpy, and the public was worried about the increasing power of big corporations. Voters kicked out Benjamin Harrison and brought Grover back to the White House. Unfortunately, the second time around wasn't so fun. Just months into Cleveland's term, the U.S. was rocked by the worst economic depression it had ever seen. The railroad industry was overbuilt, farmers were unable to pay their mortgages, and unemployment was at an all-time high. Grover quickly pressured Congress to cut back on the coinage of silver to fight inflation. It helped, but it ticked off rural Democrats in the West and South. Things got worse in 1894, when a huge strike by railroad workers interfered with mail delivery. Cleveland used federal troops to break it up. He thought he was well within his rights as president, but Democratic labor leaders in the North were furious. Democrats were completely divided when Cleveland left office in 1897. He had acted decisively during emergencies, but he also paved the way for 16 straight years of Republican presidents.
The Panic of 1893 had a great effect on the people and the culture. It led many people to change the way they think about the American government, economy, and society, since the nation was in an economic depression. It made more women and children work to aid their survival of their families, since many people were left unemployed. It left about 4 million people unemployed, which led to the starvation of many families, especially in the urban area. It also sees the growth of the popular literary movements such as realism and naturalism, which affect the way people write even to today. The Depression also has a great effect on politics. It sees the repeal of the Sherman-Silver Purchase Act, which leads to a shift in the focus on the gold reserve. It discredits the Cleveland Democrats, which confines the Democrats primarily to the South. There's the creation of the Wilson-Gorman Tariff Act, which fails to reduce the taxes and the duties. The Democrats lose greatly in the 1894 elections. Republicans become the majority party going into the Progressive era.
In conclusion, the split of the Democratic Party was a result of the Panic of 1893, as well as unemployment rate exceeded 10% for an extended period of time. Also, it made millions of people abandon their life in the East and move west, and also led to the growth of realism and naturalism.